the Indian automotive industry, the global automotive industry is getting rewired. It's getting redesigned. Okay, the energy and the automotive handshake is getting re-engineered. Okay, it's completely new. So everybody is learning, like you said, but some fundamentals don't change.
I do believe that things are going to change very rapidly. I think better products are out there, people's acceptance is a lot more, and new kinds of business models are emerging, use cases are emerging, because of which I think you're going to see a lot more aggressive adoption.
The market is responding now, the numbers are there. So just businesses and solutions ought to get built. So message to folks sitting on the fence or thinking about it is that, if you snooze, you lose. That's I think the time is about there.
This is interesting, and this is where logically it has to go to Vasudha. Nikhil did talk about the scale not being so big for them to interest. So since you stitch deals, if I were to put it that way, because you are absolutely the right person to ask. There's an investor outlook and there's an expected EV ecosystem founders and other companies outlook. In the scheme of things, from an investor perspective, which is one of the most bankable areas in the EV space? And I know everyone over here on this panel would expect it's me. But still, I mean, like I said, it's an open conversation. What do you think is the most bankable one? Second, the aspect what Nikhil talked about, the tech piece. How much, I mean, it's being positioned as a tech play also. How much of it is real? An investor's view into this industry.
Yeah, no, very interesting question, and I think would love to answer this. So really, see that I don't think. I mean, I'm my heart beats for the EV founder in anybody in the ecosystem, right? Because I know I've seen the struggles. I've seen early stage battery swapping startups in 2019 and how difficult it was for them to build, and they were trying. Everybody has been trying, right? So I would say, see, there are some fundamentals that don't change. And that is why I think every new and upcoming EV founder needs to understand that, right? You see, one thing at the outset is the Indian automotive industry, the global automotive industry is getting rewired. It's getting redesigned. Okay. The energy and the automotive handshake is getting re-engineered. Okay. It's completely new. So everybody is learning, like you said. But some fundamentals don't change. The economics and the financial prudence doesn't change. I do not think, I mean, while it could have happened in consumer, even that is seeing a backlash. The whole funding winter, we saw that you cannot just build a consumer business by having constant burn and not having any eye to profitability. So I think the most fundamental thing, and the only common thing, or the core common thing between old economy investing or pre-EV economy investing into different themes, whether it is healthcare or fintech or consumer tech of any kind, to now moving for the same investor to come and look at EVs, which they are, and I've engaged with so many. Is this focus on profitability in unit economics? You cannot throw that out of the window, and so therefore a laser sharp focus to get the business model right is important. So, I mean, every company that I work with, I think we do spend a fair amount of time in actually getting that. It's one thing to just say, okay, this is what we have and let's try to pitch this to investors. But to the largest extent possible, we would not do that. We would say, let's get this story right. And in doing so, maybe some fundamental decisions, within the business, so have to be taken. So I think clearly the economics of the business, whichever it may be, whether it is a fleet, it is an OEM, it is a financing problem, the solution has to check the economics boxes. It has to check the fundamentals, in terms of just saying that, yes, you are at some level of scale. If not now, you will make a profit. And how will you get there? And how will your go-to-market look like? I think these are traditional business building problems that have to be solved for, and the investors would love to see those answers, right? Then you say, okay, now do you believe in the EV? I mean, or you start with saying, okay, do you believe in the EV industry? And if they say yes, then they do need to cross the border or cross the hurdle on these problems, right? So that is, I think, absolutely important.
I think Dr. Saran wanted to answer that, but before, just hold on that,
Yeah.
Mike. This is then, do we have a unique problem that the funding winter has hit the EV industry at the wrong time where it needed its most, as compared to many other industries who got the leverage of a great funding time. So do you think that is possibly a case over here? And then I will also the same question will also go to Dr. Amitabh. So Vasudha, over to you.
No, absolutely. I think, see, we are at a very what can I say? It's a very sort of inception or an early stage, but it's also a very tricky stage. Like, this could be a make or break. I'm not saying it's going to be a break. I think it is, like Amitabh said, it is here to stay. But I think it could delay, retard progress, and which is unfair, right? I think we need, see, like I said, all of these businesses that are redrawing the automotive and the energy ecosystem are being built, are being born, and are coming up from scratch. And all of the incumbents, and I speak with a lot of corporate venture funds, they all are looking to the startups to learn some of these technologies, or to build it in-house, or to kind of give birth to those kind of ideas in-house, and so on. So it is getting born, and therefore capital is going to be required at all of these stages, patiently through the next 3 to 5 years, for these for the winners to really come up. And I think I'm saying that it is possible to pick winners today, but you have to stay with them for the next 3 years. So in a sense, the timing of the kind of funding winter, when, and this has impacted us, it has impacted the whole world, America, everywhere we've seen, mobility businesses, suffering and struggling from, not getting funding. So I think the timing has been a little tricky, but hopefully, we will just come out of it, and, it would not leave a long-term impact on the overall sort of progress and growth of the industry.
Dr. Amitabh Saran, over to you on the same question.
So I do believe that I think it's taking a little bit of time. I don't think the winter has necessarily come. If you look at the investments, they might have, from my perspective, they might have gone to the wrong people. But there's been a lot of investment in EVs. Most of it has happened in traditional large OEMs. The startups have been wanting. I think there will have to be a lot more support. I think to that extent, regulations, government support, all kinds of things have also had their own share of problems. So I think I do see 2024 as a very different year. I do believe that things are going to change very rapidly. I think better products are out there. People's acceptance is a lot more, and new kinds of business models are emerging. Use cases are emerging, because of which I think you're going to see a lot more aggressive adoption of EVs, and that in itself will cause more investors to start looking at that space and saying that, yeah, this is here to stay. I think business models and everything else that's happening in the EV ecosystem is also going to matter a lot. And I might be digressing a little, but he mentioned Selco. Nikhil mentioned Selco. Just a little anecdote. I think this might be back in 2015 or 16. I'm not sure. Those were the days when I used to wear a T-shirt of Altigreen always, which had every car a hybrid written on it, and we were into hybrid vehicles and all that, and you're constantly pumped up. Yes, you're a computer science guy, you're trying to build vehicles, etc. In the middle seat, the gentleman comes and and we start talking, and he asks me what I do, and I'm like, all over the world, and we have this patent and that and everything, all kinds of things. I asked him what he does. That was Harish Hande. He's the founder of Selco. This gentleman is a PhD in, I don't know what area, but he spent a large part of the last 2 decades in Karnataka's hinterland trying to solve maybe now it's 3 decades, trying to solve the solar electricity and how it can change the way people are working. So I was like, oh, okay, wait. Then he says, oh, I'm a Maxson award winner. I said, oh my God. Then he asked me a very simple question. He says, Amitabh, have you seen on the roadside the people selling mumphali and all that? I'll just come to the point. Selling mumphali, and they have these kerosene lamps. You know, they spend 5 rupees an evening on the kerosene. So I said, okay. So, I don't know what to say. So I just said, okay. So he said, okay. I said, what happened? So he's like, yaar, wo itna jara sa hoga hai. Think about it. If you were able to light, this less than 0 watt bulb in your house, would you be willing to pay 5 into 130 into 30, which is 150 rupees for your electricity bill? Like, I don't know. So it's way, way, way more. And that had to change. So you'll be surprised at the way these business models get created. He created a business model where they take these LED lights, and the battery pack of these lights is something that this guy on a two-wheeler comes and he gives a charged battery pack and he takes the old battery pack from these guys for 2 rupees. He makes money in the process. So from the 5 rupees, the business model has now converted to something which costs less than 3 rupees. And everyone's making money in the process. And they extended that to schools. So everyone has been given a tiffin box size thing. I'm just saying that business models have to emerge in such a way that it becomes very interesting. Kids have been given tiffin box size battery packs. The only way to charge these battery packs is through a solar grid, which is available in the school in the village.
So attendance would go up.
Attendance has gone up. He was saying in the 90% where kids never used to show up, now they show up only to get their battery pack charged.
And the parents send the children to school saying that there's no light at home if you don't go to school. So please go to school.
It's expanded so much when you meet people, and you realize that there is so much innovation possible, but that solution has to exist for this geography. Nowhere else would this work where, kids are not going to school, they've been put for child labor and all kinds of things, even though we have all the laws against it. But it happens blatantly. Now, he cut that by creating a business model that allows you to do it. This is a company that has refused investor money. I mean, it's weird, but I'm just saying that maybe because there was no R&D investment or something in it, but that's aside. But I'm just saying that you can create business models. As long as you know of a problem that you're trying to fix, you can create business models and you will be successful in those business models. I think I'm speaking more from an entrepreneurial perspective to say that don't look at very, very large problems that you need to fix. Look at smaller problems and you will find solutions to it, and there will be enough and more money to be made in India for that. So,
and then brings me to the next question.
Hey, Max, sorry, I want to ask you a question actually.
Please.
Since you have raised equity and debt and you've done that, over some period of time, what have you seen different now than what it was before?
I don't have to tell them what EV means. To be honest, my first conversation with a possible investor was to tell him what is electric vehicle, what does it really mean. Today, there's a lot of awareness. What they're aware of is the overall, but the risk element, the ability to take risk element has increased. Second, one important point, because we raised fund from SIDBI as well, right? Their understanding is that they are ready to, there's a lot more, I think there's some of the risk in the risk sheet, some of the risks have been taken off on by some government investments, etc. And that has happened. So what that is doing to the industry is, if they are ready, a government entity is ready to take bets, a private entity has a higher risk appetite, why not? So that's where the conversation has actually changed in the both on the equity and the debt side. But I am somehow, this is surprising for me, I think the debt side is going to kick in a lot faster than what I was expecting it to be. Equity is taking its own route and then the funding comes and summer comes and all of it. But the debt side is a slow but steady that thing is, kind of improving. That's right.
Like fleet operators were all doing deals at 24% in 2021, early 2022. Now you talk to them at even 16%, you get shooed away saying, no, it's too high.
That's, in fact, I can say that if it's 16%, I won't even.
Exactly.
So we are talking about single digits already. I mean, that's the kind of conversation, and that's where Vasudha, the equity debt play is changing. In fact, that's one of the point is in your annual planning, you need to now start to think of how debt is going to play in, and this is where I hope I've answered that question, and that's very. And this is where Nikhil, because Dr. Amitabh talked about the kerosene of the EV industry is financed at the person who's actually buying it, and that's where we talked a lot about innovative solutions, etc. Because you're speaking to, Vasudha gets investments for large entities, founders, etc. You are actually trying to get that money into the hands of that last person who's going to go to Amitabh Saran and say, "Give me one alt green." Are there any innovative solutions there, or are we trying to kind of make it too complicated? What's the kind of conversation happening at that person's space? Any insights out there?
Sure. So we don't do work. O-Mobility doesn't do work in three-wheelers retail as yet. But some of the other players like Vidyut and Turno are all folks that do work in this space. So they're doing lending with a twist, which is, they'll sell you the vehicle and they lease the battery out to you separately. That helps customers feel less worried about the upfront cost, because the cost of a, auto rickshaw passenger is about 2.6 lakh rupees and a EV is about 4.2 lakh rupees. Is that right, sir? Something around that. So as a consumer, I'm buying a very expensive product. So if you're actually able to, provide innovation in financing, where you're taking the battery component out and actually financing the vehicle, there is value to the retail customer. For most of the traditional lenders, they are saying there are two risks over here: the individual and the vehicle. These remain. These are still true of the ICE world, true of the EV world as well. The individual's risk is still there. It is now compounded with EV. In some cases where the EV OEM is reputed or is very well funded, the lenders are having some more comfort, saying, okay, there is opportunity for us to, recover, or they have some systems where they can, take that back. Whereas the profile of the individual, that I think is a general problem that has to get solved. It's not a EV problem only, which is how do more auto rickshaw drivers get lending? Just because it is EV, the problem is compounded, like I'm saying, where they're like, okay, if I get it back, what will happen? Second-hand value will drop by 50% in 6 months. I'm not able to recover my principal back. All these issues come up. So I think it's a matter of time will get lenders more comfortable, but B is, if you're able to de-risk that for the lenders. Like, lenders are not in the business of taking risk. They are in the business of de-risking things. They always want to say, what am I doing to de-risk it? So if an OEM, a fintech platform, a technology company, anybody can come and do any value add where you can de-risk it to lenders, something that we are also very interested in. So we also want to build something like this. I think we ought to see more of this. Very little of this is happening now. Also because when you talk to the lenders, they're not very open. They're like, this is a known problem, lender बैठेगा, दुकान पे बैठेगा, finance करेगा, what तुम क्या करोगे, Then we say, oh, we can do this, we can do that. They're not fully buying into, some of these solutions yet. Also because it's, I think, a timing question. They just don't see the space that large. But the moment they have sales pressure, they will have to bite into this.
My problem with this panel is there's so much insights that is yet to be absorbed. And now I realize why panel discussions need to be a lot longer, which I'm going to correct it next time. But because I got an indication that we are slightly over. But let's do one last round over here. We are here in 2024. We're just starting off financial year 25-26. With the kind of insights you have as individuals in your specific ecosystem, two things between now and 2026-27 you think are going to happen and you're ready to bet on, which not everyone talks about it. One of these could be finance and one of these could be in the overall ecosystem. Two things. Your predictions as the EV pundits of India. What are you thinking?
Well, wherever we are working, among the areas that I think we have exposure to, I think the charging problem will get solved for the sort of broader EV ecosystem. But it is also subject to coming up with solutions in renewable energy. So I think the renewable energy generation problem has to go hand in hand with electrification of mobility. And I think that will start to happen now, the rooftop solar and so on being opened up. I think this is going to be a important trend, and one can't say, oh, sequentially or so on. It has to happen now. I think the second thing is definitely commercial mobility will get electrified to a very large extent. Obviously dependent on funding and adequate capital flows to the businesses that need it, and so on. But I think the case is pretty clear, and it makes an impact from a climate, from a pollution perspective, and so on. I think it's checking all those boxes, and it is for the user. It's also being economical to use one. So I think commercial, any kind of commercial use case, whether in 2, 3, 4-wheeler, I think is going to be a predominant trend, and I believe that that's something that one could bet on. Yeah.
So, Nikhil, over to you. 2 predictions for those people who are planning to put their money in the EV space.
I would bet that there will be at least 25 companies that are worth more than $100 million in value in 2 years from now, because the market is there. The market is responding now. The numbers are there. So just businesses and solutions ought to get built. So message to folks sitting on the fence or thinking about it is that, if you snooze, you lose. That's I think the time is about there. I think for the longest time, we saw a lot of enthusiasm with very little numbers. And that's the truth. 2017, 18, 19, so many conferences, we sold 2,000 cars a year, Like, it doesn't matter what you say, but as an investor, I just can't get excited about that. Whereas that has changed significantly, right? 1.5 million vehicles last year, 1 million vehicles the previous year, 300,000 the previous year. So it's like 3x almost every year. So prediction is there'll be at least 25 companies north of 100 million in valuation. So if you want to, for investors looking at it, it's a great opportunity. Second is debt will be much, much easier through a combination of just supply and innovative ways to deploy them. Both will get solved in 2 years in a much, much easier than now. I mean, we'll still have much more to do, but it will come a long way in the next 2-3 years, seeing how capital is getting deployed. And maybe just one more is touching on what she's saying. If you're in commercial vehicle business, you will be unviable in 24 to 30 months from today if you're not transitioning to EVs. You will not be able to compete with another fleet you will not be able to get orders from Amazon, Flipkart, delivery, etc. if you're not on EVs, because the cost will just knock you down. So you have to transition to EVs. These are my 3 bets.
Awesome.
So, everything's been taken.
All 2 predictions. This is all that you have heard and seen now.
Altigreen will be huge.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but the big thing is, I think in 3-wheelers at least, that's the sector that I do represent over here. I do believe that 3-wheels will see a lot more penetration. I think passenger 50%, cargo close to 75 to 80% penetration in L5 for electrification. Almost a certainty I can give it in writing today, irrespective of what happens to subsidy or no subsidy. I think it's clear, TCO benefits are clear. B2C will see a lot more penetration, and one, definitely I will say, more penetration in tier 2, tier 3 towns than you see in tier 1 towns. The focus is all going to be there. Bharat is coming out and literally coming out and with all guns blazing. I do feel the penetration is going to be significantly high in those areas.
Predictions that you did. One was Altigreen and about the penetration. With that, I think we tried to keep it very small and cozy, but I realized the kind of information that just oozed out of this panel. I mean, I'm still to absorb all of it. And next time, I wish we could keep it for a lot longer, a lot more intense, since we are still learning on the go, like the EV industry is. But thank you so much, Vasudha, Nikhil, Dr. Amitabh. Thank you for such an interesting conversation. And like I said, let there be more conversations on mobility. Thank you so much. And with that, I hand it over to Smita, the producer of the show. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear guest. And we really enjoyed listening to you. And I'm sure our audience have also. And we'll keep this forum open for question answers. I'm sure you have some questions for the guest. Okay, so we have Tushar who would go for the first question. Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tushar. So we just introduced. So I have two questions, rather a view from a consumer point of view, because since we spoke about future landing also. So when this transition was happening in early 2000, when petrol and diesel was about to shift, or probably CNG, okay, there was a big buzz around that CNG is going to be in future for every one of us, be it a fleet owner, be it a private operators, or be it also a consumer in our perspective, especially on the cars, right? I see a lot of movement apart from government, from finance industries, OEMs also. They've all gun blazing, pushing CNG to be more attractive for a people, okay, for consumers. There are a lot of innovation happened at that time. Because I was part of the OEM earlier, I've seen change people in mindset, education awareness, also incentivizing the landing from OEM plus the banking as an institution, NBFCs and all that stuff. Are you seeing those kind of innovations in the future? And probably if that helps, because as of now, if I also go to any of the OEMs or probably two-wheeler, I have nothing special on the card if I buy anything, okay, apart from the benefits on the running. Does it change a consumer mind if this helps, if you think so? Second, there is a whole narrative of probably South Asian countries are bullish on the hydrogen and probably the hybrid of the worlds, right? Do you see that is a more valuable than EV? And probably it's like another buzz around. That's I would say rather my views or questions to all of you.
Yeah. Sure. So, hybrid definitely. I am bullish on hybrid. I think especially for passenger mobility. High-end, long-haul trucks, hydrogen definitely is going to happen. For some reason, I don't see that happening in smaller vehicles. I do feel there are challenges that we still need to fix in the hydrogen cycle. Hybrid definitely. Electric hybrids for passenger cars especially, it will take time before really the electrification of highways and all that happens to the extent our vehicles do need. Think about it. In the US, you've had electrification for a very long time in passenger vehicles. But even today, apart from Tesla, the only guaranteed chargers that you have available, is home charging. Fact. Even today. So, dude, it's going to take a while before that hits in India. I do believe that hybrids are going to be important. I think your first question, I do believe that the big difference is going to happen when OEMs start adopting more software and start using software and data to actually make that difference to the person who's using the vehicle or to the person who's using the ecosystem. Just like financiers have started using the data to be able to, immobilize vehicles or remotely start vehicles and those kinds, which gives them the confidence. Diesel ki gaadi leke aap chale gaye, to kya hoga? But they're seeing that difference. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. Everything about Tesla that you think, apart from, of course, the looks and all that, is basis software. And amazing software that's running there. And it's not just going to be software that's running in the vehicle, because obviously the other challenge in India is no one wants to pay for software, right? But if there is a certain amount of convenience or certain amount of benefit that you derive out of that, I think people are more than happy to do it. And that is where I do see the real things that are going to happen in EVs are going to happen when software really starts becoming the king. Right now, it's still a while away.
I think that answers your question. I don't know. I don't have anything to add.
Okay. So what we would do is we would move on to the next question.
Hi, I'm Gagan, and thanks a lot for the grateful session. The question that I have is, we see a lot of products coming in all the segments, be it two-wheel in EVs, be it two-wheelers, be it buses, be it three-wheelers, be it cars. There's one segment that we've not seen a lot of products, that is commercial four-wheelers. My first question is there a reason for it? And my second question is, right now, we are at somewhere around 1% penetration in this particular segment. Do you see this segment growing at the rate of three-wheelers and attaining a 50% EV penetration in the next 1 or 2 years? And my question is for everyone.
Yeah, let me quickly answer. I think Amitabh will be the best person to answer this. But I think, there are engineering differences between a three-wheeler and a four-wheeler, right? I think the amount of power, the payload, and so on. So what has really happened today is two-wheelers, three-wheelers being the sort of more low-hanging fruit in terms of just engineering a vehicle or putting it together for those that have assembled it. I think has solved that problem fairly well. And that covers a majority of the use cases in the inner cities and sort of, where actually even pollution benefits are achieved already and commercial benefits are achieved. But as you go to longer ranges, higher payloads, longer distances, I think there have to be new energy solutions. Like Amitabh mentioned, the hydrogen has to come in. And also, I think from a sheer sort of EV powertrain engineering, etc., there has to be a lot more R&D that has to go into it. So which is why I think as the Indian EV ecosystem is still learning and coming up the curve, that engineering solution needs a lot of capital and it needs more time. So this has typically been the bastion of the larger sort of incumbents where the capital is available, but the R&D hasn't kept pace with that, for multiple reasons. The EV startups that can do this kind of R&D haven't had access to capital, and that sort of becomes this reason why we don't have long haul transportation and so on sort of happening right away.
That moves on to the next question.
My question is to Dr. Amitabh Saran. Altigreen is already huge, and we wish all the very good luck to you. We have visited your factory outlet. One question, is there any thought for manufacturing two-wheelers, or if not, then why? Like, we want to understand that why there is no such view from Alti or any other OEMs interested in two-wheelers. We just want to understand that.
So I think as part of our own business plan, we decided that so we could have made a two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, or a tractor. Those are the drivetrains we owned. I think three-wheelers. Okay, so India. Okay, so 400 million people access a three-wheeler every day in India. 400 million people, 40 crore people access the three-wheeler every day in India. This is passenger and cargo, right? When you do that, so even if it's a delivery, I'm assuming that's 2 people. 400 million, 40 crore people every day. So we were clear, if we needed to make a difference, I would like to start from a place where I can start making a difference. It's not just about selling X number of vehicles. It's about making a difference in the mindset of a person. They can see how that vehicle is driving, how easy it is to drive, can I earn more money from it, safety, whatever, all the other parameters and check marks, all that. I think it makes a huge difference to people. I do see that happening. I do see that there's a reason why the penetration is so high in three-wheel space. It's because, it does make sense, in terms of the quality of the vehicle, in terms of, how much you spend on it, or the earnings, or the kind of money you're in a position to make. So overall, there are significant benefits. And hence, from a three-wheel perspective, there's a reason why I do strongly believe that India and the emerging markets need three-wheelers. I do strongly believe they need three-wheelers. I mean, the road infrastructure and all that requires vehicles that are more nimble. I think that's the case. I do believe that more three-wheelers you're going to see very soon. So people are making four wheels, great. It doesn't take away from the fact that new format of three-wheelers. Everything on three wheels has become synonymous with an auto rickshaw. I think that is going to change. You're going to see a lot more vehicles on three wheels, maybe two in front, one back, all kinds of things you're going to see. But you're going to see a lot more wheels. From an Altigreen perspective, whenever we do extend out of three wheels, we'll probably add a wheel, probably go into four-wheelers. Thanks.
Any more questions? Oh, you have a question. Okay.
Hi. Is there any scope of improvement in subsidy? And if it's gonna waive off by government, do you see, is there any, implement of that in the sales?
It will definitely have an impact on sales, without a doubt. I think this is something that as an OEM, it is extremely important for all OEMs to take note of this fact that subsidy is going to go away. It's not going to be around. And you can keep on postponing it as much as you want. That's fine. But I think it's important to start building it in your business model, number one. Number two, from an OEM perspective, you have to make sure that you have created a path to profitability. You cannot keep saying that 20% the government aa jayega. That will not work. So if you have to be profitable, you will have to ensure there's a reason why the incumbent OEMs who've been around for a while have EBITDA margins of 20%. Forget about, it's very, very difficult. So, but it's important that we start looking at that, because all the metrics for anyone who's looking at us from an investment perspective are looking at those same metrics and are saying, dude, this subsidy is going to go away, then what happens? So it's absolutely clear. The earlier an OEM thinks about it, decides and implements it, the better it will be, so that the end customer doesn't feel challenged. Financiers will have to come on board. They will have to finance vehicles for 4 or 5 years. You can't do the same thing over 3 years now that the price of the vehicle has suddenly shot up by 20%. Suppose I take something, some has to be passed to the end customer. How will that equation work? TCO benefits are huge. I'll just give you an example. In a three-wheeler case, there's a benefit of 10 lakh rupees, even when you change the battery once. 10 lakh rupees over a 10-year period. TCO benefit. And we can go through all the math. 10 lakh rupees over a 10-year period. 1 lakh rupees subsidy nikal do. 9 lakh rupees over a 10-year period. Dude, that's not even something that you could think about in diesel. It guaranteed hai, just by moving from this to that. So no one's walking away from the sector. It's just that how do you manage that thing, that sticker shock price? They think, oh my God, it's not difference. I think that's something that we'll have to play around with. I think that's the only thing. But ultimately, the market will settle.
My question is to Vasudha, basically, with respect to, we talked about the adoption and we spoke about the Nikhil gave an example of the cost of acquisition of a normal ICE three-wheeler as well as the EV. So the cost of acquisition, the delta difference is about 1.5 lakhs. But when we go up now towards four-wheelers, now they hire the vehicle capacities and the payloads are increasing. The delta difference in the cost of acquisition is increasing. So how, as an investor or as an investment banker or from the finance perspective, how do you see the difference? So the impact, rather, not the difference, the impact. How will it impact the funding and the support to the EV ecosystem?
You mean because the EVs are more expensive than the...
Yeah, EV will become more expensive because it is easy for us to justify the difference. In the case of three-wheelers, it's just been about a lakh or a 2 lakh difference. But in case of four-wheelers, there are four-wheelers which is with about 2.5 ton capacity, which cost me about 30 lakhs. Yeah. So as a fleet operator, I have a challenge to, because it's a huge cost of acquisition, number one. Number two, as a consumer, it's a huge rent for me to pay to avail these services, and it goes on.
Yeah, sure. No, see, for the investor, it is probably, if I have to isolate 2 points, I think like one of them I mentioned already. I think it's just those 2 points. One is, what is the level of adoption, right? And the more these kind of products will get adopted, they will find comfort in the business model, and the other is economics of that business model. So whether as a fleet or as the OEM that is that is making that 2.5 ton vehicle. But I think see, without a doubt, this has to be a financing solution, because like I said, commercial vehicles are on a strong path of electrification. It is happening, and it will continue to happen. But and the sort of solutions are on the benefits to the consumer are also pretty clear. Like Amitabh said, there is a clear benefit, but the fact that these are more expensive is because of the battery. So now we do have some level of visibility that okay, we will start to see India made cells which will reduce the price of the vehicle, or the fact that we will start to have even if subsidies go away, but financing comes in to solve this sort of adoption problem, then so everything has to work together, and costs overall may come down. Lithium prices have been on a downward sort of trend, so all of these and multiple factors, even interesting financing solutions like taking the battery out and separating that from the value proposition, I think becomes, so all of these things have to come in to make the adoption happen. It is tougher the more expensive the vehicle gets, but it is important for that ecosystem to grow and for investors to come into that ecosystem, or debt to come into that ecosystem. Yeah.
This now brings us to the end of the question answer round.